what does Gordon Ramsay do every time he walks into a restaurant on Kitchen Nightmares and he pulls out the 17-page binder, which is the menu? He always goes, one page, simple, local ingredients, freshly cooked. On a theme, that's it.
Hey everybody, it's John Lamberton here alongside my good friend and business partner, Mr. Jason Brockman. We are here for another episode of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast, where as always, it is our job to help you get more customers and make more money without just working harder. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this month's episode.
Hey everybody, welcome to another year of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast. Happy New Year. A little bit of sad news to actually kick us off with. Let's get them on the right note here, shall we, Jace?
Let's set 2024 up to be the year for improvement and happiness.
Yeah. So in our Christmas special last month, we referenced Mr. Charlie Munger, who was approaching his 100th birthday on New Year's Day. Now, sadly, Charlie never made it to his birthday. He died at the back end of November. Ironically, about 5 days after we recorded our Christmas special. So thank you, Charlie, for that. Yeah, what a life though. 99 years old. I think 33 days short of his 100th birthday. So I thought what we do for our first episode of 2024 is to kick off by looking at 12 things that small, ambitious lifestyle business owners can take from a multi-billionaire 99-year-old. I was almost calling him a tech investor. He would not be happy if I called him a tech investor, but a values-driven investor from the US. So we've pulled out 12 principles that us mere mortals can learn from the behemoth that was Mr. Charlie Munger. So Chase, do you want to kick us off? What's your first principle that you think ambitious lifestyle business owners can learn from the abominable no man?
Well, it's interesting actually, because last podcast, the Christmas special, we talk about the book of the year, and I think I might have mentioned Stephen Bartlett, and one of his opening paragraphs was basically one of these principles again from Charlie Munger, which is the value of continuous learning. It was kind of investing in yourself and getting yourself up to speed with all the knowledge. One of my favorite sayings is, you don't know what you don't know. So either you have to read and implement lots of books, and for that I've got you, John, or you surround yourself with people who do. And again, that's the reason why I've got you with me, because you like to read books and stuff. But that's exactly the same in our world, really, is that we read lots of books, we share lots of knowledge, we give our members the tools to implement said knowledge and leave their businesses 1% better every week. So actually that continuous learning is an important part of the very first thing in developing yourself.
Yeah, how often are we referencing constant, never-ending improvement? That comes from learning, isn't it? I mean, so many of our podcast guests, I'm particularly thinking Stephen Gibbons and Alistair Imray here, who just reeled off entire lists of books that they've read that have impacted their life and made both their business and their lifestyle better. For each of these principles, I know we've got a Mungerism. Is that the word? Charlie Munger quote. So we've got Charlie in his own words. The one I think we've got for this: in my whole life, I have known no wise people over a broad subject matter area who didn't read all the time. And then, just in case you thought he was going to leave it there, he adds none, zero. Consider over 99 years how many people Charlie Munger met, how many very, very smart, very clever people who absolutely, over the course of a century, changed the world. And in his entire life, he's not met a single person that didn't read all the time. I think, didn't Stephen Gibbons pull out a quote the other day about, I think his kids said he was like a book with legs.
Yes.
Always in a book. So that leads me on to our next principle that small business owners can learn from Charlie Munger. And it is this idea that you don't take books, you don't take principles, you don't take what Charlie would call mental models in isolation. and that you actually pull them together. Those who've seen my video on this podcast will know there's a bookshelf behind me. There's hundreds and hundreds of books in there, but there are about 13 books that are cover out. And these are the books that I want to be reminded of a particular framework or a particular mental model, a particular way of viewing life. And what I will often do is when we're chatting to a 1%er, when we're on a coaching call, or even when we're on a podcast like this, is I'll just spot in my self-view on the video one of the books behind me and just go, yeah, well, if you do a bit of 80-20 thinking on that, and actually, yeah, you're not really playing the infinite game there, are you? Well, have you considered using they ask, you answer on that? What would Warren Buffett say? Is that hell yeah or no? And I can just pull these models together. And it's this idea of, what's the guy called? It was one of my shortlisted books of the year. Can't remember now, but it was all human progress is caused by ideas having sex. Okay, so the huge progress we've made over the last century has come from taking an idea that was born in America, taking one that was born in India and putting the two together. Communication, connectivity has allowed us to do that. Charlie did this on a grand scale. He studied psychology like nothing else. He was all about human behavior, and he could take consistency bias, he could take cognitive dissonance, and he could then add that to algebra and probability. And he could take something from maths, something from psychology, put the two together and say, that's why investors do that. That's why clever people do stupid things. And that's how I can avoid it.
I like it.
What's your next framework?
I'm going to pick Inversion, I think, because 2 or 3 months ago, our book of the month, continually learning something every month, was about making less mistakes. And I think that's what the Charlie Munger's law of, or principle of inversion is all about. It's actually looking at the problems that you have and make less mistakes in order to overcome said problem. And that will then give you more success, or at least get a better outcome than if you just kind of dive in with both feet, I guess.
It is.
So yeah, so making less mistakes, I think, is a really important part of running one's business.
Yeah, inversion is really, it's one of those words that you don't kind of grasp straight away what it means. But if I say to you, it's algebra, you probably immediately get turned off and go, yeah. Do you remember when you were at school and you said, I'm never going to need algebra ever again? Well, actually, you do. You just don't use X's and Y's and parentheses and scientific calculators. What you do as business owners is you work out problems. And sometimes you've got a 3-part problem. And I'm going to use some algebra here. X multiplied by Y equals Z. And sometimes you only know what X and Z is. So you can work out what Y is. I've probably got my maths horribly wrong there. I'm married to a maths tutor. So, but I had a chat with a 1%er the other day about, my subscription model. And I said, look, your subscription model, John Warlow, former guest on the podcast, wrote a book, The Automatic Customer, all about how to build a subscription business. And he said there's a formula for profitable subscription models. Your lifetime value of a subscriber must be at least 3 times customer acquisition cost. So whatever it costs you to get a customer, you've got to earn 3 times that over the lifetime of the customer, or it's not profitable. The higher you get the number, the more it can scale. And I said to her, because she was a maths tutor as well, I said, that's algebra. You understand that? So stop focusing on getting the customer acquisition cost as low as possible and start increasing the lifetime value instead, because the higher you take the lifetime value, the more you can afford to pay for a customer acquisition cost. That is inverting the problem. Everyone else thinks, but if I can acquire customers for £2.50, then I can get a load of customers, but you've got no budget to keep those customers. If your lifetime value is £150,000, suddenly your customer acquisition cost goes significantly higher. And as Dan Kennedy says, pulling in another mental framework here, another mental model, he who can spend the most to win a customer will always win. Or as Charlie Munger says, it's amazing how much long-term advantage people like us have gotten by trying to be consistently not stupid instead of very intelligent. There we go. Oh, it's my turn now, isn't it? Right. Ooh, I should have looked at this first, shouldn't I? What am I looking for? We're thinking about consistently not stupid. I'm going to go with circle of competence. So picture a circle. Okay, everyone got that in their mind, a little circle. Inside that circle is everything you are competent at. You can do, you know everything that's inside that circle. Now imagine outside of that circle, there's a larger circle. And that's everything you think you know, but you don't. And then everything outside of that circle is what you don't know, or you know that you don't know. So quantum physics, that's outside, that's on my outer ring. I have no idea what that is. However, there will be many, many things that are outside of my circle of competence, but inside my circle of confidence, shall we say, where I think I can have a go at this. I know how that works. And Charlie's entire principle around this was based around knowing where the edge of your circle of competence is. Because when you stray, even just outside, that's the danger area. And that's, again, you referenced Keith Cunningham's book just now, the Road Less Stupid, about avoiding stupid mistakes. Stupid mistakes mostly come from that circle of confidence where you think, I know how that works. I know what's going to happen if I do X. I'm in control. I know what I'm doing. And actually, you think you know what you're doing, but you don't.
That takes me to trying to fix your toilet once upon a time. Yeah, I've done that before. I can do that. Don't worry. It's only a bit of this, that, and the other. And it's like, nah, that didn't work at all, did it?
No. Or me doing any DIY. Actually, no. Me doing any DIY is well outside of the circle of confidence. I know I am incompetent when it comes to that. But think about that, please, dear business owner. There are elements where your confidence does not match your competence. Do you know where that line is? Because that's all Charlie's superpower was with regarding the circle of competence, knowing where the edge is. He said, if you have competence, you know the edge. It wouldn't be a competence if you didn't know where the boundaries lie. Asking yourself whether you've passed the boundary is a question that answers itself. So there you go. If you have to ask, which circle am I in? It's not in your circle of competence. Right, where are we going next, Jace? What's next?
I just got a quick look, really. I was having to think about that. Rational decision making. I think that's a principle we can explore a little bit there. I think he thinks that it promotes the rationality in decision making is really important. Taking out emotion and just leaving yourself with the cold hard facts and making those decisions is pretty much what the order of the day is. It's that emotion which tends to cloud your judgment and make you make less effective decisions sometimes. For me, the little proviso on that is that you end up tending to procrastinate. So I often talk about procrastinating to perfection, trying to get that perfect decision in this instance, and you never really kind of get to that decision making. And if you do, it's usually a bit late you're late to the party for whatever that might have been. So that would be my only little rationale towards that. But actually making it fact based, down on paper, pros and cons, but taking that pure emotion out of it is definitely the thing.
If you think about what Munger and Buffett do or did. They are making $100 million bets. They need to be pretty sure what they're doing. They don't, as Buffett still says, he's still with us. Oh God, I've said that now. We've recorded this, right? Warren, stay safe, okay? You don't need to swing at every pitch. Just as you were saying there about removing emotional decisions, I can't think of a particular person, but I just immediately find myself in normally a hot seats coaching call with the 1% Club where someone says, someone's done this and it really annoyed me and I just want to waste 3 hours of my day getting angry with them and moaning about them and slagging them off and telling the world what a horrible person they are. And then we, as the rational outsiders who don't have any emotion attached, can just go, well, that's not a good use of your time, is it? How is that going to help? And it's like, it's going to make you feel better. It's going to deal with the emotional side of things, but it's all about rational decision making. Again, Buffett and Munger are making $100 million bets, and they'll tell you that all they do, their entire business model is based on backing a 2-to-1 shot at a 3-to-1 price. And that's it. Just in terms of, you said about being too rational, and I think we've seen procrastination can happen there. Pulling in another mental model from another area. My book of the year, I was going to say last year, but I have to say 2 years ago now, don't I? You're 50 this year. Oh, there we go. Happy 50th birthday coming up this year. Just realised that. Anyway.
Gives me 3 hours of anger later on. I can let loose on the 1% club.
So, yes, my book of the year for 2 years ago, 2022, was Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel. And Morgan Housel talks about having an area of investment that is not rational, but it's reasonable. And for me, it's overpaying my mortgage. I'm paying down my mortgage, which is, at the moment, it still will be, hopefully from the year, fixed at a 2.74% rate. So me overpaying my mortgage means I'm effectively getting 2.74% on my money. It's not the best rational investment I can make, but it is reasonable because psychologically I've got the weight of, I'm reducing the debt on that. That's, I'm less likely to lose the house. It's, if I gamble everything on black, I don't know why I would, but if I gamble all on black and lose a lot, that's less likely to happen. So do be rational, but also reach the point whereby you have some reasonable action taking. And never be stupider than you need to be, is our Mungerism on that one. That was you, wasn't it?
That was me.
Cool. Right. What have I got then? I'm going to go for. Now, we've got two that are fairly similar here. So I'm going to go for a long-term perspective. Obviously, let's say 99-year-old Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett is 94 at the moment. Their entire philosophy is based on buying great companies at a fair price. Munger is famously credited with changing Warren Buffett's mind on this. So Warren Buffett used to want to invest in fair companies at a great price. He wanted what they call cigar butts, where there was a little toke left in it. You can buy it dirt cheap, strip all the assets out. It's worth more than the sum of its parts. Move on to the next one. And it was Munger who said you're better off buying great companies and just holding them forever. So that is why Berkshire Hathaway is now the largest single shareholder of Coca-Cola, of Gillette, of American Express, of what's the insurance company they got? Tons of Apple. Sorry, I forgot about Apple. Good quality companies that they just hold forever. I think they recently exited from their Wells Fargo investment, which they'd only held for 37 years. And that made the news because they'd only held it for 37 years. I can't think who it is now. It might have been Morgan Housel as well. He said, there's a reason you're called shareholder, and the shareholders are the ones that get the reward. There was a line that a Mungerism here. At the end of the day, if you live long enough, most people get what they deserve. We should have saved this one to last. A nice way of summing up Charlie Munger's life, really. But it is that idea that if you do the right thing and you just focus on the long term, another mental model reference just now, The Infinite Game, Simon Sinek. That's one of my cover out books. Another cover out book up there, my book of the year for last year, Dr. Peter Attia, Outlive, all about taking a long-term view. Nathan Pascoe podcast from last year, his 100-year plan.
120.
Sorry, I'm 2 decades off of his to-do list. But there you go. There is the power of really taking a long-term perspective. If you scroll through your social feed now, and I don't know why you would, but you will see a ton of people just having real short-term thinking. How do I pick the next stock that's going to go up tenfold this year? How do I 10x my business in the next 6 months? No one's saying, how do I steadily stack up 1% improvements forever and a day? And it is, I just see, time and time again, how many times do I say to people, zoom out? Just zoom your thinking out. Just start looking at the 10-year plan as opposed to the 10-week plan.
Yes, indeed. Quite a lot. Was that a question? Yes, quite a lot. You do say that quite a lot. Yeah. You see, I was kind of funny actually, because I looked at it from a different point of view, and that was curating as many evergreen assets as possible, because those are going to do you and serve your business a lot longer and better and more cost effective than any short-term campaign that you might decide to run. So that was quite interesting actually, when that long-term perspective is actually invest in those assets that will continually serve you. And then that will lead us on to my next one, which is that competitive advantage, because you've then built your box up full of these evergreen assets, which you then constantly improve 1% every time, every week, 1% better, constant, never-ending improvements to that, because you'll always have that competitor advantage over any of your competitors, for want of a better word. Yes.
Yeah, again,
whether that's whatever sector part of your business you want to improve, but having those in place will definitely see your business outlive and outperform your nearest rivals.
It is, and it's again zooming out from just you, isn't it, to your business, your assets. The analogy that Buffett and Munger give it, which it's so powerful, is just think of a moat. And they say they only invest in businesses with a moat. A moat is obviously a defensive element to protect your castle, protect your land, whatever, and you want something that your competitors will struggle to get over. Your moat could be intellectual property, it could be your expertise, it could be your personality, it could be the ecosystem of evergreen assets that you've built up over time. It could be that you have an exclusive contract to something. But if you don't have a competitive advantage, if you don't have a moat, what is to stop me setting up next door to you? I don't know, let's use the analogy of a coffee shop. I've got a coffee shop in the high street. We sell great coffee. Brilliant. What do you do when Costa opens up on your left and Starbucks on your right? Because you cannot outspend them on advertising. You will not outbrand them. So what will you out-X them? Oh, look, we're inverting the problem here again. What is going to be your competitive advantage? Why are people going to choose you over Starbucks, over Costa? Consider that question. Why do people choose Starbucks rather than Costa, and vice versa? Two very, very different questions, but it's worthwhile thinking. Do you have a competitive advantage? And I know a lot of business owners will automatically answer no to that. And I think they're wrong, because I think they do have a competitive advantage. What they often don't do is know what it is and focus on widening that moat.
I think you're absolutely right.
I agree.
We're starting off 2024 very well here.
That's because it's in my circle of competence, you see.
Oh dear, love it.
Good. Was that yours or mine?
That was me,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right, what shall I go for? I'm going to go for risk management, because that's really sexy, isn't it? Everyone loves to manage their risk. And it's again this idea of avoiding doing stupid things. They never, we said about taking 2-to-1 bets at a price of 3-to-1. What you'll never see them doing is taking 200,000 to 1 odds. I can't remember the exact story now, but Warren Buffett was offered a bet from someone. Oh, it was a golf bet. That was it. Oh, this pulls together so many frameworks. So they're on the golf course, and Buffett is offered $1 million if he can make a hole in one. And he said, no bet. And I went, why is that? He said, well, because A, I know my circle of competence. I know how likely I am to do that, which brings you to step 2, probability, rational thinking. I know the odds, and the odds are bad. No bet. It's like, there's so many goals. No bet. Bad odds. But it's capping the downside. Again, the example that's always used is Richard Branson. Richard Branson launches an airline. First thing he does is ring up Boeing and say, can I borrow an aeroplane, please? If this airline thing doesn't work out, how quickly can I return it and how cheaply, what would I lose? 50 grand, 100 grand if it all goes wrong. Cap the downside. I think when we hear new ideas from business owners, we always hear the upside and we never hear what could go wrong, do we?
No, definitely not. And what is my first question? In fact, most problem-solving questions that I get via my one-to-ones and stuff is, what's the worst that can happen? What does that lead to? What's the worst that can happen? And then let's work out what the strategy is to mitigate as many of those risks that we can. And then, as you say, it's making less stupid mistakes. We can make a much better decision, and also limit that risk.
And part of risk management is sometimes accepting the risk. It's saying, what's the worst that can happen? Richard Branson, I might lose 100 grand and my reputation will be in shatters, and it will be all over the press that I tried launching an airline and failed. And I'm willing to pay that price. But he's gone through that process. The Munger quote I love on this, I've not heard this one before. When any guy offers you a chance to earn lots of money without risk, don't listen to the rest of his sentence. And when I think about the bad investments we've made, which we were promised were risk-free and there's all sorts of guarantees and don't worry because this is in place, we shouldn't listen to the rest of the sentence.
Exactly that.
Right, where are we off to next then?
I think I'm going to get ethical.
You like for it on, it's new year, new me.
Exactly that. Thanks very much, John. I think ethical. Understanding your visions and values, getting those out into the world, living by those visions and values enable you to build up that trust with your clients, customers, people that you want to work with. Once you've got that trust, it's keeping to it, isn't it? It's making sure that actually everything you do is consistent with that, with those visions and values. Trust takes an awful lot of time to build, but in a heartbeat it can vanish and disappear, and so can your business with it, I guess. So having a stable visions and values and living by them, so everybody kind of knows who you are and what you stand for, and being ethical, always doing that right thing, whatever that looks like, and that doesn't necessarily apply to your customers, doesn't necessarily apply to your products. It could be your staff, it could be your family. It does apply across the entire board, really.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, maybe because I'm getting older as well, believe it or not. But when I was writing and researching for the false exit, obviously first step in the framework of the false exit is vision and values. So I did a lot of reading around core values, and if you'd asked me 10 years ago, core values, but I don't believe in that woolly, fluffy bollocks. It's all just new age study mantras and stuff and affirmations and all sorts of wonderful things. Now I realize that no, it's just you all have values. Everybody listening to this call has values. They're different values because they are your values. And when you run an ambitious lifestyle business, you get to put your values into your business. Now, obviously, Warren and Charlie have invested in huge businesses, let's say Coca-Cola, Amex, insurance companies, chocolate companies, obviously famous in textiles back in the day. So they can't control those companies, but what they can do is choose to work with people they like. If they don't like the management of a particular company, they will not invest. Back in the day, before they were doing the massive blue chip investments and trying to compound, several $100 billion, and they were only trying to compound hundreds of millions, they would buy what we would call fairly large businesses, but really kind of mom and pop style businesses. And often what they would do is they would go into these premises and say, "Oh, I want to buy your business. What do you want for it?" Okay, well, I think it's worth that. Okay, I'm going to write you a check here today for $85 million, and I want you to carry on running it. We're not going to tell you how to do your job. You run it the way you want to do it. And it was just all ethical. None of it was designed to screw people out of their businesses or fleece them for every penny they got, or suddenly be owned by a big conglomerate. So we now need to squeeze the margins. And no, you've created this amazing business that we want to buy. That's the business we want to run. So you keep on running it. We'll buy. And then they've got a reputation for doing so. So suddenly people were approaching them saying, "Oh, do you want to buy my business? Because I'd like to keep on running my business and have a big payday." It's like a false exit, really, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Our Mungerism here. I think you'll make more money in the end with good ethics than bad. As I said, 99 years old, $2 billion. You can't really argue with that, can you? Okay, I'm going to pick adaptation next. We all become masters of adaptation, didn't we, back in 2020 and 2021? We all evolved, pivoted our business model. And it's this idea, I think, of what Warren and Charlie call man with the hammer syndrome, that if you've got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And if you've only got one tool in your toolbox, I've got two, by the way, a hammer and, duct tape and WD-40. There we go. But if you've only got one tool in your toolbox, you always reach for that tool. If you've only got one marketing pillar, you're reliant on that one marketing pillar. If you've only got one business model, you've only got you're one step away from everything crumbling to the ground. So it's this idea that actually you need to be willing to change your mind. Again, the Mungerism here. Any year that passes in which you don't destroy at least one of your best loved ideas is a wasted year. And I love that. So a simple question for everyone listening. What have you changed your mind on over the past year? What did you hold to be true that you now don't?
I'm giving that some thought. Whilst moving on to simplicity. Because I like simple thoughts. And that was a bit too complicated for me. Simplicity is another one of Charlie Munger's principles, and it's one that I love as well, to be fair. I always think, how can we make life easier or simpler for ourselves, for our business, for our customers to do business with us, and for our staff to implement said business. I always think that making things as easy as we possibly can, one, leads to a much simpler way of life, but also means that any systems, processes, any things that you need to kind of do is going to be followed, because it's much easier to do. Nobody likes to do the difficult stuff, and so therefore, if it's as easy as it possibly can be, it'll get done.
Yeah. I always think, what does Gordon Ramsay do every time he walks into a restaurant on Kitchen Nightmares and he pulls out the 17-page binder, which is the menu? He always goes, one page, simple, local ingredients, freshly cooked, on a theme. That's it. That's all we do. There's beauty in simplicity. And I think when we first talked about Charlie Munger on this podcast, what was that episode? I don't know, 42 maybe. We talked about it was a biography of Charlie Munger we were talking about, and it was this idea of take a simple idea and take it seriously. And that's all he's done. You know, he will tell you that his model is very simple. It involves reading tens of thousands of books and studying psychology and networking and pulling everything together and considering and being 100% rational the entire time. But it's so simple, he can explain it in terms that me and you can understand. And I think, the amount of times, again, business owners explain their model to us and we go, don't get that. We used to explain our sports betting model to someone and say, well, we do this, we do that, and we got that. And they go, is that it? Like, yeah, that's it. We generate leads, we convert them to sales, we look after lifetime value. That's it.
simple. 1% Club is really simple. It's a community. You come on in, you're part of the community. We look after you. We help you leave your business 1% better every week. How we do that is not simple. It's lots of moving parts. It's very complex balancing. But for you, it's simple. Just leave your business 1% better. If you do nothing else over the next year than leave your business 1% better every week, your business will be 69% better 12 months from now because of compounding. That's it in simplicity's term.
I'd like to quote one of our 1%ers actually, because I received it this morning in a message and I thought it was quite good. Most of our ideas stay in our head and force us to get them on paper in an explainable way that even a child will understand. Hey, we're all kids. Makes for deeper thinking. I recall Einstein said, if you cannot explain something simply enough, then you just don't understand it. Well, something like that anyway.
Yeah.
And actually, that is it, isn't it? It's how can we make this simple? How can we explain this simply? Because if we get it as business owners, if we get it to explain to our coaches and they get it, that's cool. But actually, the one that you really need to get it over to is your clients or your customers. This is what we do. This is how we do it. And this is the thing. Then people will buy because it's much easier. How many times you go on a website and there's all these packages that you can buy and it becomes complicated. You go to compare services. There's all these options that you can add in. It becomes complicated and you don't tend to take the action then. So simplicity.
Yeah. Biggest e-commerce business in the world. Best thing they ever did. One-click purchase. Great. Don't need to get my credit card out. Don't need to type in my address field every time. Just make it easy. Yep, like that. Okay, our final principle that I believe all business owners can live by is the principle of patience and discipline. Patience we talked about a little bit just now in terms of long-term thinking, but actually it's not just long-term thinking. It's having the patience and the discipline, particularly with regards to Buffett and Munger story, to just what they call sit on your ass. And they sat on a lot of cash for a long time, not investing. You're talking about the most successful investors of all time spend most of their time not investing. They spend most of the time not buying companies. They just hold the few good ones for a very, very long time. And they're looking all the time. But they have the discipline to keep their powder dry, the discipline to sit on it. How often have we used that word discipline within the 1% Club over the past couple of months? It's our book of the month. Last month, Discipline is Destiny by Ryan Holiday. We did a coaching call on discipline, which was one of our most popular coaching calls ever. So clearly there's an appetite for discipline, for just consistently doing the right thing, being rational all the time, or at least most of the time, making the right decisions, showing up, doing the work, doing what you said you were going to do. Again, none of these principles are sexy. None of them are particularly fun to do. But if you follow them over the long term, most people get what they deserve. I think we'll leave it there for today.
I want to say big thank you to Charlie Munger for all those principles that he's left us with. There's a legacy and a half there.
There are. I mean, we've done 12. We could have done 112 and still not scratched the surface of it. If you are interested in diving deeper, Poor Charlie's Almanac. It's a huge book. It's now available on Audible. So for the princely sum of one Audible credit, you can get hours and hours worth of goodness from Charlie, including everything we've talked about today. He's influenced my life. He's influenced so many lives, will continue to do so. Rest in peace, Charlie. You had a great life, mate. Normal service, by the way, will be resumed next month. We will be back with another guest on the Ambitious Lifestyle Business podcast, chatting about how they have deployed constant, never-ending improvement and left their business 1% better each and every week. Other than that, Happy New Year, and we'll see you soon.
Take care. Have a great year.
So there we are, another episode in the can. How was it for you? Please let us know. However you listen to these podcasts, please leave a review on that platform. Let us know what we can do better, what you like, what you don't like, and how we can improve to make this show even better for you. We'll see you next time.